The flickering neon sign of O'Malley's pub cast a sickly green glow across the rain-slicked streets of Boston. Alaric, a 43-year-old software engineer, hunched deeper into my coat, the collar pulled high against the biting wind. It was a Tuesday night, and I should have been home, bathed in the warm, familiar glow of our living room, sharing stories with my wife, Isolde, over a steaming mug of chamomile tea. Instead, I was here, nursing a lukewarm beer and a gnawing suspicion that had taken root in my gut like a malignant tumor. Isolde had been distant lately. Her laughter, once a melodic symphony that filled our small brownstone, had become a rare and brittle echo. Her touch, once a comforting balm, now felt hesitant, almost clinical. She worked as a museum curator, a job she adored, but lately she seemed to be spending an inordinate amount of time at the gallery, often citing late openings or special events. Id chalked it up to work stress, offered to help in any way I could, but my offers were met with polite yet firm refusals. The first red flag had been the phone calls. Whispered conversations held in the hallway, a sudden veer into another room when I entered, a quick hang-up when I got too close. Id asked her about it, of course, but Shed brushed it off, attributing it to work-related calls, sensitive information she couldn't discuss in front of me. I wanted to believe her, I truly did. But the unease persisted, growing stronger with each passing day. Then there was the perfume. A scent I didn't recognize, a heady, musky aroma that clung to her clothes like a persistent memory. Id bought her all her perfumes, knew them intimately, but this was new, unfamiliar. Again, Id asked, and again I was met with a dismissive explanation, a gift from a colleague, a sample Shed picked up at a department store. I wanted to trust her, needed to trust her, but the lies or half-truths were piling up, creating a wall between us, brick by agonizing brick. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight I had a name whispered by a mutual friend during a chance encounter at the local farmer's market. Isolde, my friend Braunt had said, a knowing look in her eyes. Oh, she seems quite taken with this new art dealer. Cuthbert, I think his name is, always at the gallery with him, Cuthbert. The name reverberated in my head, a discordant note in the symphony of our marriage. I finished my beer, the taste now bitter and metallic in my mouth. I needed to know. I needed to see for myself. The gallery wasn't far, a short taxi ride across town. I hailed a cab, the rain intensifying, mirroring the storm brewing within me. As the taxi pulled up to the gallery, I could see the lights were still on. It was well past closing time. I paid the driver, my hand trembling slightly as I reached for the door handle. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever I might find inside. The front doors were locked, but I knew Isolde often used the side entrance, a small, unassuming door that led directly to her office. I walked around the building, the rain plastering my hair to my forehead. As I approached the side entrance, I could hear voices, muffled but distinct. Isolde's voice and another, deeper male voice. Cuthbert, no doubt. I pressed my ear against the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The voices became clearer, their words cutting through the silence like shards of glass. "You know I can't leave Alaric," Isolde was saying, her voice laced with a false regret that made my stomach churn. He's so good to me. But I can't deny how I feel about you, Cuthbert." A low chuckle followed, Cuthbert's voice smooth and arrogant. Good is boring, Isolde. You deserve passion, excitement. You deserve me." My hand tightened into a fist, the knuckles white. I wanted to burst through the door, to confront them, to demand an explanation. But I held back, paralyzed by a mixture of anger, disbelief, and a profound sense of betrayal. "I know," Isolde sighed, her voice softening. "It's just Alaric would be devastated. He loves me so much, and you don't love him." Cuthbert asked, his voice dangerously low, a pause, a beat too long. "I care about him," Isolde finally said, the words hollow and empty. That was it. That was all I needed to hear. The carefully constructed facade of our marriage crumbled before my eyes, revealing the rotten core beneath. I stepped back from the door, the rain washing away the tears that streamed down my face. I couldn't stay there, couldn't confront them, not yet. I needed time to process, to plan, to decide what to do next. I walked back to the taxi stand, my body numb, my mind reeling. The driver, seeing my distress, offered me a sympathetic look. I waved him away, needing to be alone with my thoughts. I started walking, aimlessly wandering through the rain-soaked streets of Boston, the city lights blurring into a hazy kaleidoscope of color. I walked for hours, the cold seeping into my bones, mirroring the chill that had settled in my heart. By the time I finally returned home, the sky was beginning to light, the first rays of dawn painting the horizon with streaks of pale pink and gold. I let myself in, the house silent and still. Isolde wasn't home. Of course she wasn't. She was probably still with Cuthbert, basking in the afterglow of their deceit. I went to our bedroom, the room we had shared for the past 15 years. I looked around, my gaze lingering on the photos that adorned the wall's snapshots of our life together, moments of joy and laughter, now tainted by her betrayal. I walked to her side of the closet, the scent of her perfume, the familiar one, filling my nostrils. I opened the door and began to pack. I didn't pack much, just the essentials: clothes, toiletries, a few personal items. I didn't want to take anything that would remind me of her, anything that would further fuel the pain that was consuming me. As I packed, I formulated a plan that would ensure Isolde and Cuthbert paid for their treachery. I finished packing just as I heard the key turning in the front door. Isolde entered, her face flushed, her hair slightly disheveled. She saw me standing there, suitcase in hand, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Alaric, what are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm leaving, Isolde," I said, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. "I know about you and Cuthbert." Her face paled. "Alaric, I can explain," she stammered. "There's nothing to explain," I said, cutting her off. "I heard you. I heard everything." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Please, Alaric, don't do this. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "Sorry isn't going to cut it, Isolde. You betrayed me, you lied to me, you shattered everything we built together. I still love you, Alaric," she pleaded, reaching out to me. I recoiled from her touch. "Don't," I said, my voice hardening. "Don't insult me with your lies. I am done, Isolde. I am done with you." I walked past her, out of the bedroom, out of the house, out of her life. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The pain was too intense, the betrayal too deep. My first act of revenge was simple yet effective. I contacted a divorce lawyer, a shark named Bernadette, known for her ruthless efficiency. I instructed her to file for divorce immediately, citing adultery as the grounds. I wanted Isolde to suffer, to feel the full weight of her actions. My second act of revenge was more subtle, more calculated. I knew Isolde valued her reputation above all else. She was respected in the art world, admired for her knowledge and expertise. I decided to expose her affair, not publicly, but strategically, to those who mattered most. I started by contacting the chairman of the museum's board of directors, a wealthy philanthropist named Barnaby. I presented him with irrefutable evidence of Isolde's affair with Cuthbert, including emails, text messages, and even a few strategically placed photographs. Barnaby was appalled. He thanked me for bringing the matter to his attention and assured me he would take appropriate action. Next, I contacted Isolde's parents, Eldred and Beatrix, pillars of the community, known for their strict moral code. I knew they would be devastated by their daughter's infidelity. I met with them in person, presenting them with the same evidence I had shown Barnaby. They were heartbroken, their disappointment palpable. They vowed to confront Isolde and to make her understand the gravity of her actions. Finally, I contacted Cuthbert's wife, Gwendoline, a successful businesswoman with a reputation for being fiercely loyal and protective of her family. I knew this was a risky move, but I was determined to make Cuthbert pay for his role in destroying my marriage. I sent Gwendoline an anonymous email containing all the evidence of Cuthbert's affair with Isolde. I waited anxiously to see what would happen. The fallout was swift and brutal. Barnaby, the chairman of the museum's board, launched an internal investigation into Isolde's conduct. She was placed on administrative leave, her reputation hanging by a thread. Her parents, Eldred and Beatrix, confronted her, their disappointment and disapproval cutting her to the core. And Gwendoline, Cuthbert's wife, filed for divorce, publicly humiliating him and stripping him of his financial security. Isolde's life began to unravel, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. She lost her job, her reputation, and her social standing. She was ostracized by her friends and colleagues, shunned by her family. She was left alone to face the consequences of her actions. Cuthbert fared no better. He lost his wife, his home, and his job. He became a pariah in the art world, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. He was forced to move back in with his parents, his life in ruins. As for me, I moved on. I sold the brownstone, the house filled with too many painful memories. I took a new job in a new city, far away from Boston and Isolde. I focused on my work, on my hobbies, on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. The pain of Isolde's betrayal lingered, a dull ache in my heart. But with time it began to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience, a determination to move forward, to find happiness again. One evening, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from Isolde. I hesitated before answering, unsure if I was ready to speak to her. "Alaric," she said, her voice weak and trembling. "Yes, Isolde," I replied, my voice cold and distant. "I wanted to apologize," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I know I hurt you, and I am so sorry." "I've lost everything, Alaric, everything." I remained silent, unmoved by her plea. "Are you happy, Alaric?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Happier than I ever was with you," I replied, the words sharp and unforgiving. I hung up the phone, severing the last remaining tie between us. I didn't regret my actions. Isolde had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. I had simply ensured that those consequences were as severe as possible. Years passed. I remarried a kind and loving woman named Fraught, ironically, who valued honesty and loyalty above all else. We built a life together filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. I never forgot Isolde, but her memory faded, becoming a distant echo in the corridors of my mind. One day I received a letter. It was postmarked Boston. I opened it, my heart pounding in my chest. It was from Isolde. "Alaric," she wrote, her handwriting shaky and uneven. "I am dying. I have cancer. I don't have much time left." I paused, my emotions a tangled mess of pity, anger, and resentment. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," she continued, "but I wanted you to know that I never stopped thinking about you. I regret what I did every single day. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." The letter ended there. I sat there for a long time, staring at the words, my mind racing. Should I forgive her? Could I forgive her? After all the pain she had caused me, after all the lies and betrayal, could I find it in my heart to offer her redemption? I decided to visit her. I flew to Boston, the city I had once called home. I went to the hospital where she was being treated. I found her in a small, sterile room, her body frail and weakened by the disease. She looked up as I entered, her eyes filled with a mixture of surprise and fear. "Alaric," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I sat down beside her bed, taking her hand in mine. Her skin was cold and papery. I looked into her eyes, searching for a glimmer of the woman I had once loved. "Isolde," I said, my voice soft and gentle. "I am here." We talked for hours about the past, about the present, about the future. She confessed her regrets, her remorse, her deep and abiding love for me. And I finally forgave her, not for her sake, but for mine. I realized that holding onto the anger and resentment was only hurting me, poisoning my soul. Forgiving her was the only way to truly move on, to truly find peace. Isolde died a few days later, peacefully in her sleep. I attended her funeral, standing alongside her family and friends, paying my respects to the woman who had once been my wife. As I walked away from the cemetery, the sun shining brightly overhead, I felt a sense of closure, a sense of release. The pain was gone, the anger was gone, the betrayal was gone. All that remained was a faint memory, a reminder of the past, and a profound appreciation for the present. I had survived Isolde's betrayal, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all.